In this Wargaming Tactics vlog, we're jumping in, exploring the idea of terrain and cover, the relationship between the two. And we're looking at this idea from a very top-level point of view. Naturally, different wargaming systems, the system that you're playing or that you play, is going to have different interpretations of this rule and how it's handled within the base mechanics of the game. What we're looking to explore is this idea of terrain as opportunity. What opportunity does it give us? What opportunity does it take away from our opponent? And likewise, what opportunity would it give our opponent and would it take away from us? Now, this idea of wargaming, we're doing this miniature thing. We've got the mission, we've got the rules, we've got the terrain. There's really two things going on. The first is very much window dressing. And terrain in itself is an important part of the hobby. You want to take that narrative, translate it into terrain, and make a battlefield. This idea when you step back, you've got the miniatures on the table, you've got the terrain, you've got the battle damage effect, you've got the music playing in the background. It's almost like a role-playing game. It's almost like an alternate reality, stepping out of space and time. Terrain dresses the stage to play on. On the tactical side, it's going to give you advantages. It's going to interact with the rules. And again, how this happens and how much depends on your rule set. But two fundamentals that we see. We're going to explore cover. The other is elevation, and perhaps the third, occupation. This idea of cover in this vlog. Terrain that if you occupy it, and it could be something abstract like here's the base of the terrain, so if a unit is in that, regardless of what you see or can't see, it has cover. Or it might be very much what you see is what you get. If I see 3 infantry in that terrain, in that broken down, burned out house, they've got cover. Cover is going to give your unit, give your model, give your elements an elevated chance of survival. This idea of shooting attacks, magic attacks, artillery, something has to happen in order for me to cause damage to you, for me to cause wounds. Maybe I have to hit on 4s or higher. Maybe I have to roll a d6 for each miniature, and on a 5, they take damage. This idea, terrain is going to protect you in some way and cut down on that volume of dice. So if I need 4s to hit you, and a 5 or a 6 is a kill on the d6, we're talking about chain of command. If you're in cover, a 5 is actually shock to the unit. You don't remove a model, and a 6 would be a remove a model. So we can see this idea of knocking it down from 33% removal to just a 6. That's huge. That's significant. So sometimes with cover, you can really magnify the unit. Now, there might be some other rules. I'm just illustrating from Chain of Command. It's a fantastic World War II historical rule set. You can issue the order to charge if you're close enough. When you charge, if you're charging a unit that's in terrain, they're going to have an advantage, right? If they're behind a wall, they've got cover, they've got terrain. You've got to go over that wall. They're in a defensive position. They get additional attacks. They get bonuses. If you have grenades, if they have grenades, that interacts. So you see this not just in a shooting type game, but in other aspects, other phases of the game, there might be an advantage. Well, now that we have that framework, the value of cover-seeking terrain, you don't always want to grab it. You need to look at the rest of the table. So if we look at a traditional wargaming table, and there's some cover terrain in the center of the table and over to the left, do I really need to grab that terrain over on the left? If I send a unit or 2 to occupy it, we talk about this idea of earning, and I pushed up some Wargaming fundamental tactics to the playlist here under Wargaming Tactics. A unit, a squad, a ship, whatever it's going to be, you're paying a certain battle currency for it. Battle value, throne geld, power points, squadron points, just regular points, sea bills, whatever it's going to be, tonnage. You're paying something for that in your list. You need to have that unit, that model, doing something every turn, earning that currency back. Engaging units, destroying units. And obviously once it's destroyed, then it can't earn anymore. But we want to move beyond just seeing that. If you have a unit just standing there, doing nothing, it's not in range to shoot, It's not going to charge. It's not adding some like bonus effect, meaning, okay, if this unit's on the table, +1 initiative every time you roll. Well, okay, I can have it hanging out and still be getting some sort of bonus to the game. If you don't get any of that, that's wasted battle value. So I framework that because sometimes what you'll see on larger wargaming tables, if there's some terrain over on the left side, my left side, if I go to occupy that because I want those bonuses, because that terrain piece is away from the center of the table, it has less tactical value. Is your opponent really going to move there? Are they really going to attack in that direction? So yes, I'm occupying that terrain. I'm going to get that cover save. But it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to be attacked. And that's a certain percentage of my force that has been taken out of that element. Now let's talk about location in terms of center location. If we see a wargaming table, we've got your side that you deploy. I've got my side that I deploy. Then we got that mid section. If there's terrain in the middle of the gaming table that you want to occupy, that's going to be contested. That's where your opponent is going to try and grab it. That's where you're going to try and grab it. Because visualize this if you can. We've got a wargaming table. Let's say there's a bombed out forest right in the center there. You're going to get some sort of cover save. If I have a unit in that position, that unit can shoot, project out, depends on the weapons, right? 6 inches, 12 inches, 24 inches, 36 inches. That radius, I'm going to be able to essentially fire on anything on the table. If I'm all the way over to the left, I'm only going to be able to reach the left side of the table, the center side of the table, the right side of me looking at it. I can't reach over there in terms of shooting magic attacks, missile attacks, artillery, lasers, blasters, whatever it's going to be. So when we look at terrain for cover, yes, absolutely, I want to occupy cover and get whatever bonuses I can for my system. But I don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it, giving me this idea of like a shadow advantage where I'm not going to be utilizing it. I want to identify key pieces of area terrain that is going to impact range, the ability to attack, volume of dice, all these kind of fundamentals, and give me more staying power because I've occupied it. Likewise, looking to deny my opponent as best I can those areas of terrain. So identify your rules, but the placement, the location of the terrain is so important. You don't need a cover save if nothing is ever going to shoot at you. And if you occupy certain areas, there's less incentive based on the board, based on the mission, based on the units your opponent's playing, where there's going to be less shooting or ranged attacks and more shooting.